Hi everyone, and welcome back to this, the sixth and final video that I'm bringing to you relating to the Vision and Traction Organiser, which is the favourite tool of mine out of the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is a framework that I use on a day-to-day basis to help people to get clarity and focus in their businesses. The reason I love this tool is because it is a 2-page business plan. It might seem like it's an impossibility to put everything onto 2 sides, but with the right effort and the right work, you can make it very, very concise and get it onto just 2 pages. The reason again for doing these videos is that things are bad at the moment in terms of people are locked down and businesses are suffering, but the idea is if we can get as much focus and clarity in place now, when things start to be the restrictions start to be lifted and people start getting back to work, let's hopefully get as many people as possible, focused as possible, so we can all start picking up as quickly as we can when we get out the other side. So the last video here is the issues list. Now the issue side of things is a bit of a gimme in terms of you can have this one and use it anywhere. It's a really, really good tool in terms of how to solve issues, the best way to solve your issues, and it can work standalone from the rest of the tools. You can use it to apply to your personal life, to your business life, even financials, whatever you might have. If you have an issues list, then you can make sure you can really affect change. The reason that it exists alongside the VTO is because you want to make sure that anything that's causing a problem to your business planning, anything that's stopping you from achieving your ROCs or your goals, anything that's off target needs to be discussed and dealt with as an issue. It's a very, very strong part of VTO, but it could be used as a separate entity as well. So there are just two steps to this, which it sounds simple, and it really is a simple concept, and it can be more difficult to implement, but there are just 2 simple steps. The first is to prioritise. Now, if you haven't prioritised your issues, you're going to really struggle to deal with any of them. But before you even prioritise them, make a list. So again, it doesn't matter where you are on what issues you're trying to deal with. If you haven't dealt with them, or if you haven't listed them, then you won't be able to do a lot with them. Now, in terms of listing them, that itself is a very powerful mechanism, because listing what issues you've got can hopefully help to relieve some of that anxiety. You may be carrying around a lot of a burden with all of the issues that are in place, but you haven't got them out anywhere. So just that release of getting them somewhere. Again, Trello, a notepad, anything just to document and say, these are all the issues I've got. Once you've done that piece, the first step is to prioritise them. So again, without a list, you can't prioritise because you don't know, or something else will come in as a curveball that you've forgotten about that becomes more important than the other one. And before you know it, you're going on and on and on and round in a circle chasing your own tail. But if you prioritise them, then you know that the one that you said was the most important is the most important. If another issue comes in and it's more important than that one, then by all means deal with it. But at the same time, if another issue comes in and it isn't as important as your number one, just stick it on the list and come back to it at a later date. And then that way you can hopefully keep your focus and you keep focusing clarity on that number one issue. When you've then decided what your most important issue is, you then move to step 2, which is called IDS. And IDS here, it talks about identify, discuss, and then solve. And the idea behind it is, again, it's the identify pieces from the business analysis background that I've got, and many other people that have had this kind of framework in place. Identifying and clearly identifying what the real cause of your issue is very, very important. Making sure that you've got to that root cause. It's the whole act like a child, 5 whys, that kind of thing. Keep on asking why all the way back. And again, an analogy that was thrown back at me yesterday is the same one I like to use quite regularly, is the paracetamol. So if you've got a really sore knee, take a paracetamol, it might start to ease that pain. But if it's actually a problem in your hip, and your hip is starting to give you problems, which then causes you problems into your knee, you take a paracetamol, it might take away the problem for a little while, gets rid of the symptom, but it doesn't get rid of the actual cause. So once you've identified what the actual true cause is, you can move to the next step, which is discuss. And again, this is where you need to have people around you to say, right, I've got this problem, this is my issue, this is the true cause of my issue. Then on another part, they might turn around and say, actually, no, that's rubbish. That isn't really the issue at all, is it? Go back even further. So again, having people around you to discuss your issues with is very, very helpful. But you discuss it and find out what things are able to be possible for solutions for you. Because it might be that you're thinking, right, I've got to do this thing to solve this issue. But once you've shared that, it may be a case of, why? You don't need to do that at all. You don't need a hip replacement. Just do some strengthening work. So there could be a lot of different reasons or a lot of different ways to solve the issue. Discussing it gives you those different options and allows you to take a very reflective view on the best way to solve it. And the next part is to solve it. And that is then putting steps in place to say, this is what I need to do to make sure I've actually solved this issue for good. Similarly there, go back to the hip problem. If you know you've got to do strength work, if you know you've got to do yoga every day to help that hip, to get itself back and right, make sure you put steps in place that mean you can't miss it. What we do on EOS World is to make sure that you've put a to-do item on there, which can only really be maximum of 2 weeks. You know that you've set out a plan to say, this issue will be resolved if I do these things. That's going to get rid of that issue and it won't come back again. The idea is you then review it in 2 weeks. Did you do that to-do item? And sometimes it's a case of, no, I didn't, because the other things got in the way and it stopped me from doing it. But that then gives you a kick up your own bottom to say, right, okay, I didn't do it. I said it was a problem. I said it was my biggest problem. Now I'm going to take the action because I said I was going to do it, and there's no excuses now. I'm going to make that call. I'm going to make that change. I'm going to do the thing that is effectively going to resolve my issue. So that really is it. So just 2 little steps for issues, prioritise them, and then actually take steps to get rid of them for good. Once you've done that, you should be good to go. So that's the end of this series of videos. The idea is I'm going to bring another series back, but I didn't want to create a series of videos or a never-ending stream of activities. I want to break things into more bite-sized chunks. So if there is a particular video you liked out of this one, then go get all 6. The other part of this is all of these tools are free. The VTO, you can get a hold of it. I can get you copies of that, no problem. Give me a shout and I'll let you have copies of those too. If you've got any questions about the VTO, you've got any questions about the Entrepreneurial Operating System in total, any questions for me, any just general questions about anything, then feel free to let me know what they are and I can help you to try and resolve them as much as possible. So the next series of videos will come along soon. Feel free to like this one, share it, it'd be really good if you could. And if you've got any feedback, then let me know. Thank you.